Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 7. As you can see, it's a little bit different look. I'm kind of going through a little rebranding process. Kind of getting this whole thing started. I just recently started a blog called Texas Sports World. Basically, it allows a little bit more wide range of things. I can talk about the Texans, which kind of right now is kind of going to be the base of the conversation, just because NFL free agency just started. There's a whole lot going on. We have a lot of different topics to cover, and just wide ranging in the NFL in general. A lot of crazy things have happened in the last couple of days, and so we're just going to kind of go over that, take our analysis about it, and then of course there will still be Longhorn stuff kind of as the season picks up. Right now, it's kind of the recruiting period, and I'm no insider, so what do I know about recruiting? But without further ado, this is my guest, Isaac. He's been one of my best friends, probably my best friend for pretty much ever. So it's pretty cool to finally have him on. I've been trying to get him on for a while, but I appreciate you coming on this time, my man.
Hell yeah, brother.
Hell yeah, brother. Um, what? Man cave? Is that what you're pointing at? What are you talking about?
Oh, never mind. Move on. Forward, onward.
So where do you where do you want to kind of get this thing kicked off with? Just before we hopped on, there was the Keenan Allen thing.
Yeah.
Just got traded to you said the Bears. Yeah, I literally just found that out, so I haven't looked at it or anything like that. But I find that pretty interesting. They're finally giving. I mean, do they even keep Justin Fields? Do they draft Caleb Williams #1? Do they trade Justin Fields? Whoever's going to be the quarterback, kind of, I think with Moore, they finally have some weapons out there, that may actually make them relevant again. Poverty franchise #3 of the day.
Well, I feel like Keenan Allen's really old. I think that was my first takeaway. I didn't see the details of what the trade was, but the Bears just traded DJ Moore away to somebody. So I don't know why bringing in Keenan Allen was like
The Bears trade the Bear. Hold on, wait a minute. The Bears traded DJ Moore.
Yeah, like day one. You didn't see that?
Hold on. It still says he's on the Bears still.
Oh well, maybe I'm wrong then. I thought I saw that somewhere.
So yeah, but still, nonetheless, they're kind of to kind of segue back to the Texans. They're kind of in the same boat that we are in the fact that, or were, I guess, when the free agency first kicked off, we didn't really have a running back, and like that, I wrote about this in the first blog post, so make sure you check that out. I'll have the link in the description below this after the video. But I feel like we were really hoping that, obviously kind of everybody wanted Saquon. But that kind of fell through. What was your takeaway? What was your feelings whenever, you kind of, that news broke that we missed out on Saquon?
Pissed. I was pissed.
Yeah, that's pretty much, that's one way to put it. Yeah, definitely.
We already talked about all this, but I didn't like it at first, but now with Joe Mixon involved, I don't hate it. I'm not hating on it. I think Nick did a good thing. I think we got good value at running back. I think we got a good running back for what we got. Joe Mixon is a bad running back.
Yeah, you saw that earlier today. The news came down that they signed him to, they traded for him, then signed him to a 3-year extension. So you've got, I guess in a way, you have your bell cow-ish type running back in place for the next couple of years. But it feels like, Derrick Henry is kind of the only running back in the league right now that's kind of sustained as he's kind of gotten older. Like, he's kind of aged like fine wine. Obviously there's been a little fall off, but yeah, I feel like 27 at the running back position is kind of where, things start to get a little bit dicey in terms of, value skill wise.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of the extension that we gave Joe Mixon. I think we should have, if anything, I don't know. I liked signing him initially. I liked the 1 year. Wasn't 2 years okay, but 3 years I feel like is pushing it, for especially at 27. Right. We have 30. He's probably going to regress up whenever he is 30. So in the next seasons, and this kind of solidifies him as our running back 1 for this window of I guess, our Super Bowl window, which I'm not.
Right.
I think we could have definitely upgraded even more, but compared to last year, I think this is more of an upgrade.
I mean, I don't know. I would have if we had found a way to hold on to Devin Singletary, obviously, signed with the Giants the other day. If we could have found a way to hold on to Devin Singletary, I think I would feel a lot better about Joe Mixon than I do right now.
Well, I'm a Dameon Pierce fan.
Yeah, he's very high on Dameon Pierce. Yeah.
So I'm not mad at it. I think a Dameon Pierce, if he can get back to where he was his rookie season, I feel like we're in a perfect position in the running back room at least. I don't think we need another guy.
Well, I mean, the good thing is you could almost take last year's like a redshirt year for Dameon Pierce in a way, So I mean, don't get me wrong. If he does come back and if he does come on this year and he like really takes, it's kind of like a maybe a 60-40 between him and Joe Mixon. I'm cool with that. If he proves to be serviceable, but at the same time, like I was trying to explain to you the other day, I feel like he's right now. You have to go with what and so right now I feel like yes, his rookie year, he did really solid, but this is a completely different scheme. It's a completely different offense, and there wasn't really any like signs of growth throughout the year. It kind of just felt like he hit a wall and just couldn't break through it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you got to think. When did we really pull him from the offensive scheme? It wasn't late in the year. It wasn't even
No,
pretty early on.
yeah,
It was maybe 4 or 5 games into the season, I think. So that's not a lot of time to adjust, especially from what we used to have. It's hard enough already to switch coaches. I feel like running back and maybe receiver and quarterback. It's just hard on the entire offense to switch offenses completely.
well,
And maybe
I think that's fair.
and maybe he just we didn't really force it. We didn't have to force it. We had Devin Singletary who kind of was really good in that offense. So there was no reason to force feed Dameon Pierce trying to get him to figure out. I think what we did was the right thing by pulling him and not really using him as much. But hopefully he learned. I don't know why we didn't try to get him, in there more towards the end of the season to see what he had learned throughout the season. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see during training camp. Obviously, if he's not good, they're not going to keep him and they're not going to start
Right.
him.
I mean, I think for a running back, there really is credence to the idea that they have to get going. Like very rarely is a running back just start to finish the game, just popping on all cylinders. Like a lot of times, especially in the NFL, you'll see a player go like 8 for 25 in the in the first half or something. Really struggle to get going, and then they break off like 2 or 3 20-yard runs, and all of a sudden they're at 100 yards, and like, how did we get here?
Right.
You know. So like a
And,
lot of times, I would agree with that.
and I feel like fans, and myself included, I feel like we don't really put ourselves in the shoes of. I mean, you got to think you're the starting running back. You have a great rookie year. You get injured. That's already disappointing. Then you have to
Right.
learn a team. You think you're figuring it out. Only he knows how really well he understood what was going on. And then you go in there and you got Devin Singletary in the backfield with you, and you're not doing so hot. Like it has to kill your confidence every time you run the ball and you get 2 yards, and then the next
Right.
play, or you see him run the same exact play, but he gets 5 or 8 or 10 yards, and you're just like,
Right. Right.
what? So that can be
Right.
frustrating. We don't know how he
Right.
handles frustration or disappointment that well, so it's not
Yeah.
not unheard of.
No, yeah, and I think in this specific offense, it's the zone run scheme, and so a lot of it there is no 22 power or 26, or, you know what I'm saying, right? There is none of that, and so it's a lot of go this way, read the tackle's butt, find the linebacker's head, and figure out which way to go from there. You're looking at you're taking into account two levels, and I think Dameon Pierce is an aggressive runner, and so I think he was just taking off and trying to find the first thing he could do just to get some yards rather than being patient, slowing down, and letting the game come to him. That's kind of the way this run scheme is built.
And I think the difference is I think that the downfall for him this year really was the fact that not only could he not figure it out, but this he for the kind of running back he is, this kind of offense, this kind of style requires a little bit more finesse. Uh,
Right, exactly. Yeah.
and so he's trying to force it the same way it worked last year, and it's just not working, and he doesn't know what's going on. But you also have a guy like Devin Singletary who's kind of been in the league longer. He
Right.
understands,
Yeah.
and so of course it's going to click for him naturally. Well, I don't know. I felt bad for him. I don't think we should have. We see he's explosive. He's a good.
Yeah.
He did fine in special teams and kick return. So
Right, right. So the skill is there.
he can be good. We just got to figure out what's going on with him. I feel like.
Yeah. I mean, I think you made a good point by pointing out the injury that he had, coming off of his rookie year. That does slow development down, and then and then the whole having to get a new coach come in, and it's not an easy scheme to learn off the rip. It's
Had
difficult.
no competition last year. It was him and I don't even know who our running back we
Rex
had.
Burkhead, I think it was Rex Burkhead.
Yeah, competition, and then you bring in a veteran, and you're kind of already on the fence because you just got injured, and you're like, well, this guy's not bad. So
Right.
I get it. I think he can be really good as a compliment to Joe Mixon. I feel like he'll be all right.
He could be the kind of thunder-ish to Joe Mixon's lightning. And so just to kind of bring it full circle with Joe Mixon, one of the interesting things that I didn't really, notice or look into until today was Joe Mixon is a solid receiver out of the backfield. And I think I think I read that he had like between 50 and 70 um uh what am I trying to say? Not receptions, but targets. There we go. He had like between 2 years, he had 51 years, 70 the next. So he's an option out of the backfield. And I think that's another thing within this, Kubshanistani offense that's very important for the running back to be an athlete out of the backfield to create as many, options as possible. Because you'll see him do the little Texas route, but then they break back out because they read the linebacker broke inside. You know what I'm saying? Like they'll do the swing route, and it's actually he's the first read, and he's trying to, the running back's trying to pull the linebacker on him so they can get the slant on the backside, stuff like that. You know, so that I think that'll prove important. Whenever the season rolls around again.
Yeah,
Um, so the next thing I wanted to get into that was kind of the big topic of the day, regarding the Texans. Okay, so let's just take this back to last night. So last night, I'm writing my article. You call me or you text me and you said, "Okay, I have something to tell you. Don't freak out." And in my mind, I'm thinking, "Oh my God, what happened to his kid? What do I need to call off work tomorrow? What's going on?" And then you just say, "You just Jay Jettas, Aaron Donald, Houston Texans." And I was like, first of all, anyways, so that happens, right? And then we start seeing all these things on Twitter about Eric Armstead, about how it's a lock, and there's all this hype. There's everybody's saying something's going on. It's been quiet, yada yada yada. And then come to find out today, Eric Armstead signs with the Jags.
yeah,
So we went over this earlier, but just to kind of sum it up and to kind of like put it in perspective for everybody, what the F is happening? What how, I see the words are hard to come by because just the day before you trade your starting defensive tackle Malik Collins, who was a solid defensive tackle last year. We saw that in this scheme. He single-handedly won us the Bengals game, you know. So and I distinctly remember him playing very well in the Titans game. Both games we needed to win. And so you trade him to save like $2 million. So anybody watching is kind of like, oh, okay, they're clearing this cap space for something, right? That mean, why would you? And it just so happened that he's a defensive tackle. Why would you trade your starting defensive tackle if you didn't have
the back.
something lined up? Right, something lined up already, and and then we don't end up getting him, and then we had to wait for it, settle, and we ended up bringing in defensive tackle. I can't even think of his Tim. Is it Tim? John Ram? Tim
Himself.
Settle. So bring in Tim Settle. He's made 6 career starts. He has 90 tackles or so, 6 sacks in his five or 6 years he's been in the league. He's 26. And this I feel like this kind of goes to what I was talking about earlier when it kind of just feels like the Texans are getting everybody's like sloppy seconds, and it's frustrating to see when you have all this buildup that you miss out on all these guys and you end up just getting the second place guys. It's kind of frustrating as a fan to watch.
I don't think. Okay, so now that I've had time to sit on it and kind of let it
Simmer.
Yeah, I don't hate not getting. I'm disappointed that we don't have a starting defensive tackle for sure, but his deal, I feel like was a little. What did he sign? 3 years, $51 million. I'm okay with not giving. I'm all right with not giving that to him. I feel like they were all.
I mean, that's fine. I don't necessarily disagree with you because I mean you're talking about a guy who's fresh off a knee injury, who is going to be coming back on a brand new knee. That's kind of that's a difficult. The last person who did that was Adrian Peterson, and I don't think we've had another one of those come out. So, I mean, if that's fine, but there had to have been that had to have been known and that had to have been talked about. So there has to have been an answer. There has to have been a plan, because if they want to look me in my eye, excuse me, and tell me this was the plan.
I think so. Listen, as a Texas fan, right? I think the plan now is go into the draft. I forget his name, Murphy.
Yeah,
I think he's going to be our number 1 pick.
he has to be. He absolutely has to be.
And I'm not mad at that. And we were talking about it earlier about how deep the wide receiver class is for this draft. I don't think us not picking one in the first round is going to hurt us very much.
I mean, so I saw a name earlier that I just completely spaced on when we were talking about receivers earlier. Malachi Corley from Western Kentucky. Solid. I think he kind of fits the type of scheme we run offensively. He's really solid. And the good thing is he probably won't go before the 3rd round, maybe late in the 2nd, possibly. So that gives you some leeway.
A guy that we're both really high on, Xavier Worthy.
Yeah.
There's a chance he drops to the 2nd round. He was already projected a 2nd round, and then his 40 time kind of brought him back to a lot of people, kind of brought him back to the 1st round for a lot of people. But there's definitely a chance, especially with all the time that we have now, people could get signed and traded and all kind of stuff. There's a chance that he falls into the 2nd round and we can pick him up.
Yeah, I mean, and there's also, we talked about A.D. Mitchell as well, another Texas receiver. No homerism. He's a really good NFL type receiver. He kind of I comped him to Nico Collins a little bit in the or no, to DeAndre Hopkins in the sense that he's got really good hands, really good catch radius. He can high point a ball. All those things. He's a really good route runner. He's deceptively fast. He kind of uses that to stem cornerbacks to where he can get on top of them and kind of use his speed as an advantage from that point on. And I think that's an impressive skill for such a young guy to have. A lot of young guys, they try to either use their speed or use their physicality, all or nothing. And it takes a lot to learn the finesse of being a receiver and knowing when to use it and when not to use it, I think.
Also, I think as Texans fans, I feel like we're a bit. Well, I feel like a lot of people are freaking out a lot about what's going on with the interior defensive line situation, and because we got to fill on offense, sure, we could use another receiver. We don't have to have one. We didn't have Tank for the end half of the season. We don't know how well just 2 of those, like, we were winning a lot of games with just 2 receivers and
right.
It's Stroud. So
yeah, and I think having CJ makes the players around him better. So you could throw any Tom, Dick, or Harry out there, and he can put the ball. And if they can catch, they can catch. If they can't, they can't.
Right.
He's going to put the ball in the right spot. And so obviously you want to get as much skill out there as possible. But if you could go out there and find any guy that has any show of potential at as a receiver, I feel like that's better than going and not drafting for what you need. Obviously, as an NFL team, it's kind of, you never want to pigeonhole yourself. You never want it to be obvious where you're going. You kind of want to be as mysterious and mystique as possible. And I think if if we had that in mind, then maybe we do go defensive tackle, or we go defensive tackle 1, and then we go Quinyon Mitchell, or whatever, second, and then in that third round, that's when you kind of get to the Malachi Corleys, maybe the Keon Coleman, stuff like that. You kind of get to those guys who still have a lot of value and can still be efficient within this offense.
And so another thing that I was thinking about earlier today, we obviously went very defense heavy in free agency, which is not a bad thing. I think people are worried more about receivers than they should be. I feel like there's a lot more questions in our secondary than anything.
I would agree.
I mean, Jeff Okudah's not going to be our cornerback. I mean, he probably is, but we could get so much better people through the draft. I feel like we should a corner
for sure.
Safety. We still need a safety opposite of Jalen Petrie, or to replace Jalen Petrie. We still need interior defensive line. I mean, if we have a really, really, really solid defense, the offense that we had last year
would be fine.
Right.
Right. No, I can agree with that. I can agree with that.
There's no reason, especially in a loaded offensive AFC, there's no reason for us to try to go and have shootouts with teams. We need to try to stop them from scoring as much as possible, and just
right.
CJ Stroud's going to put up points.
Right. No matter who you put around him.
Right. So if we can stop, I mean, we were talking about it earlier. We were 3 more games ish. We could have won if we just made key defensive stops that we didn't make. If we can do that, especially against bad teams, we'll add more wins to the column.
Right. No, and
losses too. We wouldn't have gotten beat so bad in Baltimore, I think, if we had a better defense.
Right. And I think, we were talking about this as well. You got 4 teams in the AFC that you really got to go through: Baltimore, Kansas City, Buffalo, and who am I missing?
The Bengals
and the Bengals. Okay. And who?
And Miami.
Oh, the Dolphins. That's who I was missing. Yes.
Yeah.
5. Okay. Call it 5 teams. You got to get through those. And really the 2 main ones or main 3 are probably Miami, Baltimore, Kansas City.
Yeah, but before you even get to those, you still have to go through the AFC South, which is not as laughable as it has been in years past. There are
what is that? Like the NFC East or whatever with the.
We're not a bottom tier division anymore. There's a lot of good players in the AFC South now that we still have to compete against twice a year.
Right. I mean, the Titans have been making some moves too. They've made some moves too. Obviously, grossly overpaid for Calvin Ridley, but whatever. That guy.
The Colts, honestly, there's a universe, there's a time, there's a chance. Last year, we don't even make the playoffs
because of the Colts.
Right. So, and they didn't get really any worse. So, I mean, rookie, we were talking about this earlier too. I'm not going to say what I was going to say because I don't know if JT is going to watch this, but they got a guy in Indianapolis who's pretty good or pretty athletic at the quarterback position that I'm not scared of, but I don't want to face him as much as I have to.
Don't JT, if you are watching this, don't worry. He's talking about Anthony Richardson, and I think he is not that great at all. Actually,
giving Hollywood Brown a 1-year deal worth up to $11 million.
Who?
The Chiefs.
Oh, yeah. Let's give the Chiefs more speed.
Yeah, that's just right now. I just saw that.
Yeah, I just saw it.
That's not great.
Oh, so speaking of the Chiefs, what about L'Jarius Sneed? What do we think about that?
Pass.
Pass? Not even with how small, like how. I
No.
mean,
I think here's what I think. I think if we're gonna do anything more before the draft, I think it needs to be cheap. I think we need to cheap, 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 cheap. I think we need to be cheap, fill in backfill spots, depth positions for sure. I don't think we need to go out and I don't know. Maybe we can sign one or two more guys. But I feel like the draft is where a lot of I feel like that's where a lot of our hopes are right now as a team for key spots.
I mean, so we're gonna in the draft. You're gonna walk out with a receiver, defensive tackle, a corner, and probably a safety, right? At least those four positions, and then you'll double up somewhere else.
Or running back.
Yeah, actually, I didn't. Yeah. I think. Who do you have any ideas about what running backs you would be interested in? In the draft.
No, not really. I don't know. I know I've seen a lot of mock drafts that have Blake Corum. Uh,
Yeah.
that's the only guy that I've really seen. I don't really want him. I don't like him. That's kind of a
Yeah.
bummer. I don't really care for that guy. If he never played in the NFL, I'd be okay with that. But
You're so petty.
yeah, I don't care. I don't like him. And if he's on our team and I'm forced to root for him, that's upsetting, and I don't want to do that either. So, hey,
every time he touches the ball, boo! Everybody's like, and you're like, Alabama fan.
hate that. But as far as running backs, I don't know. I like our running back room right now
Well,
until
we gotta add one more. We only have two.
Derek Gumbawale, Swiss Army
Oh
knife,
my!
baby.
Oh my! All right, listen. He can be he can be the emergency kicker.
We should put Tank ass butt back there.
I'm telling you, that'd be dope. That little tank.
He's glitchy. I
I'm
wouldn't be.
telling you. I'm telling you.
I think if I'm the Texans, my draft order knowing now with the information we have going into the draft, it's probably going to be a trade up. Our first, we're not even going to pick 23. We're going to trade up to get a defensive lineman, the Murphy guy. I think round 2.
If we have this, if we even have round 2, we might have to trade it. If we're talking about trading up in the draft.
Yeah, what we have to have a round 2. We have too many holes to not pick.
Exactly. Exactly.
I feel like receiver is probably going to be disappointing for a lot of people because I feel like that we're going to pick kind of towards the end of the draft.
Yeah, I agree.
We go defensive line, probably corner, probably running back, and then safety, then receiver. That's what I think. Or maybe we trade up into the second. We trade back from the first.
Trade up in the maybe.
Maybe we get 2 or 3 second round picks and just kind of go crazy in the second round. There's a lot of ways we can go about it. There's a lot of stuff we still have to do. There's a lot of things we still need.
Right. That's where. But honestly, it's kind of more. It allows for more conversation. It's a little bit more fun than last year. Whenever it was everybody knew it was obvious what we were doing.
Oh, for safety, there's a free agent safety, Isaiah Simmons.
Yeah, give me that. He's the Patrick Mahomes killer.
Yeah. I haven't seen anything that links him to us, but I wouldn't be mad at it. I just don't know. I don't know with the remaining cap space that we have. We got 20 million. I don't know if it's wise to spend it all.
Well, I mean, okay, but that's probably what they're thinking because Nick keeps getting outbid and he refuses to go past 2 or 3 years. And so you're not going to get any big time young players like that. No young player, big time young player wants to commit to a short contract. I mean, you got Danielle Hunter, who I'm sure we'll get into later, but he's almost 30. And so like, obviously he can take that 2-year deal with a lot of money and a lot of guarantees and go play. That's not a big deal.
Especially So for Dolphins signed somebody. It made me lose my train of thought. Uh, what was I about to say? Oh, so for the Texans and free agencies and all that, and young players. If you're a young player, we're not the same Texans team as we were 2 years ago or 3 years ago. We're not a bad team anymore.
Right, right.
Kind of setting ourselves up to become a really good team. If I'm a young player, sure, I'll go play for the Texans for 2 years, maybe win a Super Bowl, maybe get my contract extended, maybe get the mesh with these guys. If not, I'm still young at the end of my contract. I can go test free agency again. I don't really see a downside to the 2 year deals.
It's stability, man. It's the stability. No, none of these players don't want to. They don't want to bounce around. I don't think that's the goal. I don't think that's the goal for anybody to bounce around. I mean, yeah, could you? I will say to help your argument. Um, I think that it allows you to cash in more. Like let's say you have a solid 2 years. Like if you signed a 5-year deal, you have a solid 2 years. You're stuck on the money you were worth 2 years ago. You know, so like I could understand why maybe to a to a free agent why that would be enticing,
Right.
but at the same time, it's a give and take. It's a give and take game where no team wants to give you a lot of money over a little bit of time.
Mm-hmm.
They'd rather give you a lot of money over a long period of time.
Well, the other thing is a lot of free agents in general are pushing 30. They're not quite 30. There's some young guys,
Yeah,
20s, 25, 26, 27, but a lot of them are pushing 30. And it puts teams and players in a weird position because if you're 28 or 29, you want, 3 or 4 years. But if you're a football team, you're not signing a guy who's pushing 30 to a 4 year deal. It doesn't make sense. Now we did it with
Denico Autry.
Nico Autry, and I still don't like that very much. But whatever, I guess somebody's got to sign him. He's gonna be 36 by the end of our contract, so
He's taken. I think he's Jerry Hughes. He's taken Jerry Hughes' spot, except he's better than Jerry Hughes was when Jerry Hughes got here and found the fountain of youth and somehow was able to be good. This guy still is okay. Like he had 11 sacks last year or something, 11 and a half sacks or something last year. That's pretty solid for 33 or 34.
sure, I guess. Congrats, but there's gonna be it
But
doesn't even if it's Jerry Hughes, it doesn't matter who you're gonna regress at some point, and that we're
that's
sitting
yeah,
Jerry Hughes. He's not some all-star. He's not a Pro Bowler. He's not very significant, in my opinion.
yeah. No, I could agree with that.
Serviceable guy. He's okay if you need a starter like we did, and he performed well for what. But there's a reason he's not here anymore. And
Right.
I feel like at 34, that's a scary situation. I wouldn't have done it.
And the contract they gave him was 2 years, 20 million, 10.5 guaranteed, 10 million a year. That's
It's a
what,
lot.
are you telling me you couldn't? Like, this is what's so frustrating about this offseason so far is they're making moves like the Mike Ford move and the Lonnie Johnson move and this one. They're just like, you could have used that money elsewhere. It just feels like you're wasting, like you're trying to give these startup guys, guys that haven't been good in forever, a chance again. It's like we're past that. We're trying to go win a Super Bowl. Like, we're
I don't
past.
Lonnie Johnson thing. Jeff Okuda. I think Jeff Okuda was a good signing.
I do too. No,
I like Jeff Okuda. I think we still need another corner, but Jeff Okuda, for how young he is, if there is a person that can tap into his potential, it's going to be D'Amico Ryan.
no, yeah. I'm more surprised. I'm honestly more surprised that they only gave him a 1-year deal.
Yeah, yeah, me
I
too.
would have thought they would have given him at least 2, maybe even 3.
Well, we did the
But
same
then,
with Nelson. We signed him to a 1 year, I think, last
well,
year.
I think what happened is maybe it was Jeff Okuda, maybe it was Okuda's idea, like his people's idea to take the 1-year deal so that if he did go out and ball out this year, he can cash in immediately instead of signing the 2-year deal. Maybe he signs for 2 years, 10 million or whatever, and for 2 years he's only making 5 million, but what if that second year he's playing at an all pro level? That might not happen, but that possibility is out there. There's a
Right.
world where that could happen.
Yeah.
That kind of goes to what you were talking about earlier about like what I was saying about, taking the 2-year deal instead of the long-term deal so you can cash in, more times than not.
I don't know. I think free agency so far has been okay. I liked a lot of the signing. Mike Ford, I don't know. I don't get it. And Danico Autry, he's good, but for how long? That's still to be
Yeah,
determined. I didn't love
right.
the Joe Mixon, but other than that, I don't think it was that bad. The Rankins thing, the Sheldon Rankins thing,
That does
eh,
it,
it doesn't make sense to me. Um,
you mean the not Sheldon Rankins.
Malik
One of us.
Collins,
There we go. There we go.
yeah, I didn't agree. I don't know what we're doing with.
Conversation. How that we didn't really know what was going on with that. Um, which it like I said earlier, it kind of sucks just because he proved himself much like a lot of players did in this. And then I think okay, here's the next thing we'll go into. So the exports and the imports. So the guys we lost, Blake Cashman, John Grenard, um, those are kind of the two big ones. The punter, see who else was? I feel like there's a couple that I'm missing. Obviously, the all of our defensive tackles. I looked earlier and every Hassan Ridgeway, free agent. Tahir Tart, free agent. There was a third one on there, free agent. I'm like, dude, what? I saw the names earlier, and literally, there's not a single defensive tackle that I even knew existed or was in the league.
I feel like we'll maybe sign one of them back.
Well, you got it. It would make no sense not to bring him back.
I feel Nick Caserio, for as frustrating as he is not that dumb to leave even if we had Sheldon Rankins, just Sheldon Rankins or just Malik Collins, just one of the two, it's not smart to just put a rookie in there and just kind of hope it works.
Right.
So I feel
Right.
like something, I don't know exactly what, but there's no way he just goes in there, drafts, lets everybody walk on our interior defensive line, and just drafts a rookie and is like, hopefully he doesn't get injured.
Hopefully
Hopefully,
you're good.
yeah. That's just not smart. I don't think he's going to do that.
I would hope not, but like I was saying earlier, he has so many ups and downs. Like it feels like it's always, you know, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, type thing, and it's very frustrating as a fan because we were linked to we were linked to so many free agents, big name Christian Wilkins, DeAndre Swift, Saquon Barkley, um, Eric Armstead, um, you know, all these guys, and we missed out on all of them. I mean,
Yeah.
granted, we got Danielle Hunter, which is great, fantastic, awesome, but that's apparently the reason that apparently Eric Armstead was going to trade straight up for Malik Collins. That deal fell through because of our we were coming to terms with Danielle Hunter, and the money just wasn't going to work. So my question is, if your whole point was to get Eric Armstead that way, why even like? It's not even. It'd be one thing if you traded Malik Collins to like the Steelers, you know. Okay, but you literally traded. You were trading him to the team you're trying to get a player from. That's the whole reason why you even initiated that conversation. Why are you trying to get rid of him just to get rid of? Now it just feels like you got rid of him just to get rid of him.
Well, I feel like we're looking at it like we were talking about earlier, like a Nick Caserio thing. There's no way that D'Amico doesn't have a say in anything. He has to be informed in what's going on. Uh,
Right, right.
he's in Casario's ear. If they weren't going to get Armstead, now granted, maybe they thought that once he hit free agency, he wasn't going to be as expensive as he ended up being, and maybe he just wouldn't budge on his price, and we were just like, it's just not worth it. But
Then why not just wait until they were like once they release Eric Armstead, then you can have that conversation with him. You're like, oh, he's too much. Then we just hold on to Malik Collins, but you trade him to the team you were going to try to get the guy from anyway.
Unless we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Maybe there's already a trade or something happening that kind of we're like, we don't need a 7th round pick. Maybe we're good with giving up an earlier round pick, a 3rd or a 2nd. Maybe we're going to get somebody else. We just only time will tell.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's true. Only time will tell. It's just I feel like we had such high hopes coming into this offseason, and it has not gone according to plan at all.
I think all things considered, it was pretty. I mean, we got better.
I mean, okay, yeah, it's
for Aziz Al Shayir, that's an upgrade.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
an upgrade.
Jonathan Grenard for Daniil Hunter, that's an upgrade.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Those are like those 2 moves are saving this entire offseason right now. Those 2 moves.
Sure, I mean,
because
I feel like depending on how well he plays,
right.
Joe Mixon. I mean, dude, did you see Barkley's contract? It's big. It's a lot of money.
Whose contract?
Saquon's.
Oh yeah, no, it is a lot of money. He definitely got a bag for sure, and giving out bags is not Nick Caserio's MO. He does not. He oftentimes loses the checkbook and can't seem to find it. So I'm not surprised that we didn't go up that high. I'm more surprised that we even thought that we would. Like it. I feel like as fans, we should have been like, yeah, that's never going to happen. Even though because if it was going to happen, it would have been this offseason. It would have been this. And so now that we know it's not, and it didn't, then we should have seen that coming.
Maybe I don't hate Joe Mixon. I think he's consistent enough to where the price was right for him. I think we did good with him. I think maybe they saw something in Saquon because we had the money to outbid the Eagles for sure. So it wasn't a choice of. I don't think it was a matter of how expensive he was. I think it was a matter of at what point do we start losing value, right?
Yeah.
At what point is X amount of dollars, but he's not going to produce like X amount of dollar running back.
I mean, and in all reality, there's a possibility that Joe Mixon puts up very similar stats to Saquon, if we're being completely honest. Because it's not like Saquon's going to go out there and rush for like 1,800 yards or something crazy. Like he's not going to, or 1,300 yards. I don't think he's going to do something crazy like that. He may get to 1,000, 1,100. He may get to 1,400, 1,500 all-purpose yards, which I think would probably be a lot. But so could Joe Mixon. We kind of spoke to that earlier when we talked about his receiving ability. So I guess
the dangerous game in free agency for a lot of teams is what are you paying for? Are you paying for a good running back, or are you paying for the name?
Right.
Well, I feel like when you get to Saquon and you look at the paper, the stats of what he puts up, I feel like at that point you're kind of paying for a name. He's good. Don't get me wrong. He's a great running back, but
I think you're paying for the guy you're paying for the guy you saw at Penn State.
Right. Or
you're not paying. You're not right. Or his rookie year where he was playing with Eli Manning. That's crazy. I saw highlights.
You're not paying for Saquon last year. There's tons of that went into it. I saw some comparisons of Devin Singletary and Saquon. They had a very identical stats last year, like very identical. And people are, everybody's going to give the excuse, well, the Giants suck, which sure, but if you're a good player, you're a good player regardless of where you're playing.
Right, and I think they had like the 4th worst run win rate, I think, in the entire NFL last year, or something like that. So, this is something a little stat that I found interesting about Joe Mixon. So, he was 4th. He was 4th in the league in yards per rush from under center. So I think it was something like that. And a lot of the Texans offense is run from under center. They have that under center aspect to them, and I think those under center runs are gonna because and the Bengals kind of got away from that when they picked up Joe Burrow. When they Jamar Chase and T Higgins and Tyler Boyd, they kind of got away from that. They could throw the ball over the yard and it's fine. So I think him being a true running back in this offense may actually help him in the long run, or at least I hope.
Yeah. One guy that I was disappointed that we didn't get, that I think had we have known how it was going to play out, I feel like he probably would have been on our team instead of Joe Mixon, is Josh Jacobs.
Yeah.
I feel like he is really good. I feel like I feel like he probably is the best running back in free agency or going into it. I think he could have been better than Saquon for sure. I feel like,
Hot take.
but I don't think we thought that this was going to pan out the way it would have, or that it did.
Right. I mean, like like I said earlier, you couldn't look me in the eye and tell me that anybody thought that Joe Mixon was like even like
No,
a possibility, not even like in a good way. Like, oh, that just would never happen.
I think Joe Mixon getting cut or released from the bank.
4-star hand.
Yeah, I think that saved our tail because I think we were in a position where we did not know what we were going to do for running back.
Can we take a minute and talk about what the heck the Bengals they signed Zach Moss and cut Joe Mixon? That is crazy talk.
Yeah. Shit. Is Jamar? Does he have a contract coming up?
Jamar Chase? I don't know. I'll have to.
Joe Mixon's not expensive.
No, I mean he's what, $9 million a year, or something like that.
Yeah. He's not very expensive. I don't know why they would do that. I don't know why they did that. Maybe they. I don't know. Free agency is a weird time. People do weird things during free agency. I think that's what I learned out of free agency this year.
Okay, let's see. I'm looking at Jamar Chase's contract right now. Let's see. So he's a free agent at the end of next year.
So they're probably going to try to extend him.
Because look, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah,
Yeah, they're probably going to
and
try
they
to extend.
and he has that 5th-year option. That's next year is a 5th-year option, so they're going to pick that up.
Maybe they're trying to bulk up the offensive line. Maybe they're trying to get better on the offensive line. They're not really. I feel like with guys like, T Higgins is probably going to be out of there soon too. He doesn't have very much interest in returning to the Bengals. I don't know what the Bengals are doing.
It's crazy because they were literally in the Super Bowl like not that long ago, and now
What they're doing. Better for us though.
oh, T Higgins was franchise tagged. That's what it was
When?
this year. That's who they used their franchise tag on.
Oh. Hey, there's a world where we get T Higgins.
I'm cool with that. I don't know because he's going to need to get paid, and so you're going to have to pay because Nico Collins has that extension coming up too.
Okay.
Or do you bite the bullet and let him test the market?
Here's my ick. I got an ick, and I'm going to tell you what my
You got an ick? Let me hear your ick.
My ick with Nico Collins. I'll say it. I got an ick with Nico Collins. I like him, but
What
are we talking about here? He had one good year. Last year was the best year he ever had with the best quarterback he could have possibly had it with. Right? Am I wrong?
That's what I think. I think that's why they haven't offered him the extension yet. It's because they need to see consistency. Because if he comes out next year and he just goes for like 580, 3 touchdowns,
He's not
that's
going
not
to.
good enough for.
He's not gonna be that low. He's still our wide receiver one, but he's not like at the level of a T Higgins, and he's not at the level of like a Brandon Ayuk or he's not an elite receiver. I feel like
Right.
so. I don't know. Everybody's saying we got to save up money for his contract extension and da da da. Yes, I'd love to have him. Sure, he's great for us, and he's going to help us win games. Sure, but how much is he really worth off of one season?
I mean, maybe we're giving him too much credit in a way. Like maybe we're thinking that his extension is going to be way more than it actually is because for that exact reason. Like maybe it's like 4 years, 15. Would you do 4 years, 15 million a year? Nah, 4
Yeah,
years seems long. 4 years seems long. 3 years, 15 million. So 3 years, $45 million. Maybe like 15 guaranteed
yeah, I would do that. I'm seeing people saying we're going to offer him 25 million, 30 million
a
a year.
year.
A
No
year.
way. That would be malpractice.
That's a lot of money, and he's only had one. Like I said earlier, I said Nico's a good wide receiver too. He's T Higgins level wide receiver too. I feel like, but T
Well,
Higgins,
hold on. Go ahead. No, keep going because I'm trying to see what because I feel like T Higgins is a pretty solid comparison to. I mean, T Higgins has had. I mean, last year was his worst year. I think he was hurt a little bit of it, but you're talking about a guy who almost had 3 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons to Nico Collins first.
first that with I feel like if he didn't play bad, right? He wasn't bad in the Davis Mill era, but even if you're like, you got to sit there and think about guy like D Hop played with some bad quarterbacks, like some bad quarterbacks, but he still
Yeah,
put up
right.
numbers with those guys. And Nico Collins didn't put up
That's what
numbers,
makes a good. He never passed 500 yards until last year.
and he had C.J. Stroud throwing him the ball, and he had C.J. Stroud throwing the ball, and he was like we had to force feed him because Tank was hurt.
Right, right. He was our only guy, and so if he went
Right,
out, then we were really screwed. But that's why
right.
we needed. That's exactly why we needed wide receiver 3 for moments like that. Because you never want to if you're ever if you're in a system where you have just 2 top receivers, one goes down, you're one play away from having no top receivers.
I think we could have utilized Dalton Schultz a lot more. I feel like we could have
Yeah,
utilized uh,
Brevin Jordan a lot more.
Gordon a lot more. I feel like we had options that we didn't really use that much. I don't like Noah Brown. I think I
I
think
think he's a
we
solid wide receiver 4 or 5.
seven wide receiver seven.
Dude, he won the Bengals game offensively for us.
Congrats.
And he was good. He was solid. He had multiple 100-yard games. Let's look.
He had two. I'm pretty sure 200-yard games. Two. I'm pretty sure it was two or three. And you know what? Listen, hear me out. I'm gonna be a hater for a second. I'm gonna be a hater. If I say me, put me in the NFL right now today, and I get good enough blocking and I break off 100-yard touchdown run or touchdown screen or something like that, is that as impressive as me having for 1 yard, 100-yard game on like 5 receptions or something like that?
Dude, he went for 172 against the Bengals and 153 against Tampa Bay.
And what else did he do this year?
I mean, he was hurt. I mean, he didn't. There were some games he didn't do very good. The first game against Tennessee, he only had 8 yards, and then last game against Baltimore, he only had 20. But then he had games where he had 57, 82. I mean, like he had over 500. He had like 560 this year.
Great.
That's a solid wide receiver 4 or 5.
Not, I don't want him.
What is your deal with Noah? What did Noah Brown do to you?
I don't like him. He's not that good. He can't catch.
Can't catch.
He got better. He got better at catching for sure. Going to, but he can't catch. I feel like that's his biggest problem. He had some drops this year. I remember them in my brain. I remember him. He had some drops, and I was like, dude, that's literally your career is to do that, and you didn't do it.
It's to catch the ball. That's all you have to do.
You're getting paid more money as a wide receiver 3 than most guys will make in their life, and all you got to do is catch it, and you didn't do it, and I hate you for it. and he's not very consistent.
And he was dealing with a lot of injuries last year, so I mean,
he was dealing with injuries coming out of Dallas.
That's true. Yeah.
So he's not like he's for one inconsistent, and for two injury prone. Why do you want that?
I mean, I would have liked to see us go after like Curtis Samuel. I think that would have been really dope, or Marquise Brown. I think one of those two would have been really nice additions.
Yeah, maybe I'm talking out of my butt. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe Noah Brown's pretty good, and I just hate him for some reason. For some reason.
Oh man. Okay. Well, so that's pretty much kind of the kind of where we're at, kind of up to this point, so far. Was there anything else that kind of crossed your mind during this conversation, or throughout the day that you wanted to talk about?
I think we need to settle down.
I think that's kind of maybe the whole, because I feel like during this conversation we kind of talked our way kind of in and out of every side of the argument. Like we one moment we kind of want to be mad about something, and then 3 minutes later we can talk ourselves into okay maybe. And so I think that's kind of where we are as a fan base right now, where everything's up and down. I feel like that Daniil Hunter thing really gave us a shot in the arm. The Aziz Al-Shaair thing gave us a shot in the arm. So I think we
need to settle down. I feel like we're talking about a Super Bowl window. I don't think we're quite there yet. Maybe I'm wrong.
Go ahead.
I think less holes to fill than we had in years past. I think we're in a better spot, but I think the holes that we do have to fill are very important.
Right.
There's a difference between having a starting defensive tackle and he's pretty good, and you probably get that figured out. But like the spots that we don't have, we don't have them, and we need them. Like we need another.
Yeah.
We need a safety. I'm out on Jimmy Ward. Bye. You're hurt and you're old. Go away. Go somewhere. Go die. Not die. Retirement. Go. Defense tackle. We don't have any of that. We need a third receiver. We have a lot of stuff we got to do.
Yeah, I was thinking about this earlier as well. I kind of think the Super Bowl window is cracked. It's cracked right now. Like, it's not open. We're not busting through it by any means, but it's cracked. We're starting to get our hands under there and lift it up. And I think because we're signing so many of these 1 and 2 year deals, I think next year and the year after that, obviously we're gonna have to pay CJ and Will and stuff, but we'll be able to say that we're one piece away, and then we can go make that one move that we need for the Super Bowl window to actually open.
Sure. Yeah. I don't even think I think last season with what we had was phenomenal. I think maybe that kind of set our expectations for this year, like way up here, and
right
here. I think making it back to the playoffs is like reasonable for where we should be.
I mean, we obviously I think we need to get back to the division or the after the first round. We need to get out of the first round.
Fluky, bad, not good Browns team in the playoffs.
But we beat them bad though. Like we beat them bad. And they had the number 1 defense in the league.
We beat them, yeah, but a lot of our two of those touchdowns didn't even come from offense. Right? They came from our defense. So it's not like
Yeah.
we put on an offensive masterclass and like destroyed, then like picked apart their entire offense. We had a 2 touchdown lead because of our defense, which is great. It's still a team sport. We have to. I'm glad we got those points, and of course we beat them a lot. But it wasn't like we played an insane offensive game.
I mean, okay. That's fair. I mean, they did have an aging Joe Flacco, but I mean, he literally just won comeback player of the year. All
Pissed me
right.
off.
Well, I think that's all we got for today. Again, I will have the link to the blog in the description below. Feel free to check it out. I try to post at least once a day, maybe once every couple of days. Just the happenings, ins and outs, kind of my thoughts on what's going on. So yeah, give that a look, and I guess we will. I'm Ethan. This is Isaac, and this has been Texas Sports World. And I hope you guys have enjoyed. We will see y'all later.